Hey, welcome back. In this episode, we're going to be having Hayden explain how he's keeping his creep of tortoises warm through the long winter months. We'll be right back. Stay creepy.
Welcome back to Southern Oregon Safaris.
We're Buffalo Roam.
I'm Hayden.
I'm Jerry, and this is the creep.
The Creepies.
Yes.
We're back at the Creepy Crawlies.
We got two types of tortoises here.
Yeah, as we discussed in a previous episode, we have two different species of tortoise. We have the African spur thigh or sulcatas, which is a kind of an African desert tortoise. They're pretty common in the United States. You see a lot of them. They're easy to breed. They're really they're abundant. Then there's the Aldabra tortoise, which is the tortoise from the Seychelles, and they're from the Aldabra Islands, and they're almost identical to Galapagos, even though they come from a completely different chain of islands. They're extremely similar.
And
only professionals can tell.
And they don't get quite as large as the...
About 10 to 15% smaller than a Galapagos. Yeah. But if you put them side by side, unless you're a pro, most people would not know the difference. They almost look identical.
Okay.
It's really hard to tell.
Okay.
So obviously the Galapagos being the largest tortoise in the world, this Aldabra is the second largest. And they are very rare, just like the Galapagos. Makes them kind of valuable because they don't breed well in captivity. Sometimes it takes 25, 30 years to even get one to breed. So that makes them really expensive to obtain.
And you have two pair?
I have two pair. Yes, I have two males and two females. So there's 8 total tortoises, and I've got 2 males and 2 females of the sulcatas and 2 males and 2 females of the Aldabra. So there's 8 tortoises total. I have not been successful breeding. Really, to get if you're going to breed these guys and take them seriously, the West Coast is not the place for a tropical tortoise. You might get away with it maybe in San Diego or Santa Barbara. It might be warm enough to pull it off, and the humidity might be high enough to pull it off. But honestly, it really is a Florida, Carolina type animal.
More southern.
You need a lot of humidity, a lot of
atmosphere.
warmth, because in the Aldabra Islands, the coldest it ever gets is usually about 65 to 68. On average, low is 70.
Ooh, sounds like a nice place to live.
It does if you like it warm all the time, but it's humid as heck. I mean, you're talking 85, 100% humidity all the time.
Don't like humidity.
And so they're a high humidity tropical tortoise. So yeah, if you're going to try to have a successful breeding program, and they are such a rare tortoise that you really don't want to have them if you're not going to get them to breed. Okay. They're costly as heck to purchase, and then to keep them healthy and alive is very costly as well. I don't really own these tortoises. They were a collection that belonged to a gentleman that has had quite a large collection at some point, and he couldn't keep them and asked me to keep them. I've had them probably 16, 17 years now. And, they would be better off on the East Coast, especially in the South.
The Southeast, Florida, Georgia.
We've been lucky, and actually this year was the first year I've actually had a couple eggs. Now, they were the first eggs. One of my females started laying eggs for the first time, but they're soft, which means they're not viable. Okay. The shell isn't hardened on them. And it's almost like it's when they first start laying, they'll start laying these soft eggs. And they're not viable eggs.
Okay, so there may be hope next year.
Could be hope, but it's all about substrate. You got to have the right soils and sand, and it's a really complicated. With Aldabras, I mean, sulcatas will breed anywhere, anytime, any place. That's why they're so abundant. But the Aldabra is a very finicky tortoise. Very hard to get them to breed. It's very hard to keep them healthy in this environment.
Okay.
And so I've been very lucky, and I've worked very hard. Trying to do the right thing by them and keep them as healthy as I possibly can. Whether or not I'll ever get viable eggs, it's hard to say. You never know. It could happen, but Oregon's a little cool and not quite humid enough where we're at.
In spite of our weather and our temperature, what are you doing? What do you have in place to help with their regulate their heat?
We try to artificially, keep the humidity up and the heat up. And so this building is really well insulated. You can see it's got a low roof. The reason for the low roof is to get a higher roof, your heat travels up the top. Tortoises sit at the ground, they get cold. So low roof It's a pain in the butt. It's like little elves living here, and you're constantly hitting your head on everything. Lots of low-hanging things to smack your head on, which, hey, I have too many brain cells, so just hit your head 3 or 4 times, and that solves that problem. But yeah, so a low roof really helps. They got a skylight in there, so in the winter months, if they are locked up, if it's super cold outside, they still have some sunlight that comes through that skylight in the roof. We also, if you can see, you'll see in the B-roll that we have grow lights, basically what you use for marijuana grows or any kind of vegetation. If you're growing a greenhouse, you need grow lights, especially in the winter. Well, that produces enough UV light and UVA and UVB for that tortoise to get enough vitamin D and get that it's not solar radiation, but they're getting enough of that radiation to help them. It basically mocking the sunlight the best we possibly can. Now, I wouldn't mind eventually, if I had the money, is going and buy some more modern lights, some of the more modern LED lights, the full spectrum LEDs. Those throw different types of more of a
balanced range.
A balanced range of UV and UV.
I have them in my greenhouse.
Yeah, I need some, but it's like maybe we'll have to ask Vivor to start making his LEDs. They're full spectrum. I don't know, but yeah. So for now, we do have just a regular old mercury vapor type or sodium vapor type sunlight there, basically, or the grow light. And then there's just a heater in there. It's infrared. Some of the things we do is I put a lot of water. I spray down the floor and before I warm it up in there. That helps the humidity. They do in the summer months. They have a pool out back. You'll see in some of the B-roll. We have a pool. The Aldabras love the soak. They love the soak, and it's good for them. It's good for their skin. Helps everything out. So that humidity really helps them a lot too. To absorb that moisture into their bodies. And then on a nice sunny day, they've been soaking in that pool. It just really comes together nicely for them. Keeps them nice and healthy. Respiratory things are really a big deal. When you got cold and damp, and if you got a closed building, you don't have enough air moving. So air moving is really important. That's why a lot of times we'll leave the door open during the day, even when it's cold out, as long as they have their heat and their light on. But we want to keep that air moving because that stagnant, dusty air is really hard on. They just got a very sensitive mucosa in their lungs and their chest. They just get respiratory illnesses easily, and a respiratory on a tortoise is pretty bad. It's like birds with respiratory, really hard to cure and get rid of. So those are things you got to worry about. And that's the importance of this building, is to make sure that we can balance temperature, humidity, all that stuff, and keep the air clean. So, and keeping their environment clean. It's like a lot of people fail to do husbandry. Well, these reptiles, they require a lot of husbandry. You got to care for them. A lot of people just think they can just throw them in something and just ignore them. Mold, spores, especially what's in the hay, all that stuff. They're breathing that stuff in, and then you'll have tortoises that are sick all the time, and that's not good. You'll have a very short life. Now, these guys can live upwards of 175 years. I've heard of 200-year-old Aldabras on record. That's kind of rare, but Galapagos will even go past 200 years.
Wow.
But if you don't have a healthy tortoise, you're going to cut that lifespan in half. So, and I've seen 15-year-old Aldabras lose their lives because people did not, practice good husbandry with them.
Husbandry. Yeah, that's always important with any kind of livestock you have.
Yeah, husbandry is everything, guys. If you don't take care of your animals, they're going to languish. They're not going to do well. And if you have food type animals and you're farming them, as well as anybody, if you're not taking care of your chickens or your pigs or cows, you're going to have sick animals. You're going to have low production for your meat or your eggs or whatever it is, or your dairy. You're going to get low production, and you're going to have unhealthy animals that you're constantly having to put antibiotics in, which is unhealthy for us. So if you're eating these things and you're pumping antibiotics in it because you're not taking care of keeping them clean, you're going to be unhealthy with them.
Well, it looks like you're doing all the right things to keep these guys healthy.
Yeah, we try. We're trying. It's tough. Like I said, we've had these guys, I think, about 17 years now.
Yeah, well, that's evidence there enough that, the longevity and they look like they're happy.
Yeah, they're going to outlive me. So, I think my daughter's going to be kind of SOL because she's going to get stuck with some tortoises. They're going to outlive her probably too. So, most of these guys, I've got some that are, I don't have exact ages on these guys because I don't have their records, but I know that the big male, he's got to be at least 75 to 80 by his size and stuff. In some of the past videos we've shown him, he's got a kind of a lumpy shell. That's bad nutrition. So whoever raised him when he was a baby coming out of the egg in the first 6 months to a year probably did not give him enough calcium. So that's important. So when they're growing, they need that calcium. And once their shell starts getting deformed, it continues to do that.
Oh dear.
Then we've got, we got 2 tortoises that were raised on the west coast in California, and they probably did not have enough humidity. Now people argue, we call it pyramiding. You'll see they have these jagged, almost like pyramids all over their back. And that can be nutritional or it can be humidity. A lot of people argue that it's just all nutritional, but usually nutritional, you'll see malformation of the shell, and then the shell is not symmetrical on all sides. It'll be different variations of pyramiding when it's usually nutritional. When it's humidity, they're symmetrical. And if you look at these two, they're very symmetrical. So I believe that this problem with them has been mostly humidity issues. When they're younger and they're smaller, they need more humidity as that shell starts to grow, or the plates don't move well enough, and they'll start stacking, and that's what causes the pyramiding.
Okay.
Because the plates don't move away from each other. So anyway, that's that.
That's that. Warm tortoises in Oregon, Southern Oregon climate.
Yeah, well, they say happy. Let's see, happy wife, happy life, happy tortoise. There's nothing we can go with
A
that.
happy creep.
Happy creep.
Well, thank you, Hayden, for that information and what you're doing to keep these guys healthy. I'm Jerry Hansen, your host.
I'm Hayden.
And this is Southern Oregon Safari.
Where the buffalo roam.
Stay tuned to more videos. We're getting close to the end of the year and close to Merry Christmas. Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Okay, you guys take care. Bye-bye now.